I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to A World According to Rocky. I am your host, Rocky Miller. We have a very special episode of The World According to Rocky. We have a candidate for U.S. Congress. I think that's a first. I think we had several state reps on my show, but this will be the first individual that's running for U.S. Congress, District 17. I would like to say that she reached out to her campaign team, reached out to me to set up this interview. That's something that you really don't get a lot in these elections. These candidates who running for U.S. Congress kind of have a really selective guest list that they work off of, and I'm just privileged that this candidate's campaign decided that I was the right platform and they were able to come on with me here at The World According to Rocky. And what they really wanted was not just talk to me, but they wanted to talk to you guys out there, the audience who tunes in and supports my podcast. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. You guys could be anywhere in the world, but you decided to tune in and listen to me. And I appreciate you if you're tuning in on replay as well. Well, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome candidate for U.S. Congress District 17, Milan Flores.
Hey, everybody.
I had some applause queued up. Let me get it. Let me get that applause for you.
I love it, Rocky.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yes, I'm Milan Flores, and I am actually, thank you for having me. I am an everyday person. We are a blended family who lives in East Texas, and we are a paycheck to paycheck family. My husband's a retired veteran. I work for a nonprofit, and I'm doing this because I have eyes up here, but also I've worked for the government for years. So my past experience, what we thought we were fighting for when my husband was in the military and when I worked for the federal government is not what we retired into. And that is why we're trying to make a change right here. So that's kind of where we started. Do you have any questions for me? Do you want to know where
I got we got lots of questions for you. Okay. So you find by doing just a little research, I find out that you are originally from Seattle, and and you guys recently relocated here to Texas. And I just want to know, as a Texan who welcomes all people who want to come to Texas, because everybody wants to come to heaven without having to die. That's what relocation to Texas is. So, I just want to know, what brought you to Texas? You and your family to Texas?
This is a great question. So my husband is 100% retired, 100% disabled, retired veteran. And so he joined July 2001. And that was right before 9/11. So this man has done 6 deployments. 4 of those were combat deployments to Iraq, to Afghanistan. So he's been through the works. He's had traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, back issues, nasal issues, CPAP. I'm like, you're 40 years old, you already got a CPAP. I'm having to listen to that already. You're only 40, so
tell him join the club. It's not bad.
Well, the new one is pretty quiet. The new one's pretty quiet. I do have to thank God for that. But when we were trying to decide where we wanted to go in the world, because we retired out of Germany. We weren't even in the United States. We were in the United States Army, and we were stationed at what's called the Joint Multinational Readiness Center. This is where they train soldiers from all over the world. I served as the awards administrator for a brigade. So any award that came, whether foreign or a United States service member, that came through me. I worked directly with the command for that. And my husband at the time was training all of these international soldiers. So we got to the point where, like, this is it. We're in Germany. We're fixing to retire. What are we going to do? So I'm from Seattle, born there, raised mostly in Oregon. And then my husband was raised in California. So you would think, as me, Pacific Northwestern, and him being from California, that's where we're going to go. But no. We started looking really deeply into Texas because the benefits Texas offers for fully disabled veterans, first off the bat. That was huge. That was huge. He'd worked 22 years in the military. There was something we wanted to get back to be able to take that service and say, hey, this state actually recognizes that. They're going to give us the benefits that are deserved for what you've done for this country. The second thing, I have a daughter who's very picky. She's bougie, as I like to call her, about what she wants to do. She really wanted to do a STEM program at SFA, which is in East Texas, is Nacogdoches. And so we started looking there. We found the perfect home. My thing was, I don't want to have to fix it. His thing was like, I just want some land. So we narrowed it, narrow. We found the perfect home, our forever home. We live here. This is our community. We're not born here. We picked this community. So we have invested into this community. So that's how we landed here, pretty much. That's what I would say.
So what community do you live in here in Texas?
So I'm in Angelina County. We are in Lufkin.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were. Let me add this too, as I continue about District 17. I'm the first Black woman to ever run for Congressional District 17. Never happened before. When this happened, so excited about it. I'm like, great, look at this. Look at this history. I'm going to pass this on to my girls. You know what they did? They gerrymandered me. So they knocked me right out, and I said I'd already made promises throughout the whole district. So they may have like tried to cut me out, but that does not take the promises I'd already made to the people. Where I already saw the need, and I already said I was going to do this. So that's why I'm continuing. I have to drive a little bit further, but I'm here for it. I'm there for it, and I'm consistently showing up.
So I'm here in Waco, and I just tell you a quick story about Waco. We had a very good Democratic congressman in the 90s and the early 2000s. His name was Chet Edwards. And he represented us very well. That's why in this area, Waco, Texas, Waco and Temple, we were able to maintain, keep our VAs open, provide service to our veterans. And you can, and we have a regional center here, a regional service center, and so you can credit him and he was on the Armed Forces Ways and Means, so he was a guy that was very influential in Congress, and he made sure, and he really took care of the veterans in this area here in Temple and Waco. And however, what happened, Milah, was that they gerrymandered him out of his seat, unfortunately. Even though he worked for all Texans, specifically central, around Killeen, Waco, Temple area, and they gerrymandered him out of his seat. And so we haven't had Democratic representation since he left in this county, and I mean in this area. And so, since then, what they've done is they've drawn us into districts that really are somewhat incongruent with the people that we are in the district of. Meaning that the people in Lufkin, though they're fine people, right? But culturally, they're a bit different than us here down the I-35 corridor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're largely rural community. We have a very, I guess when people use the word urban, but we're city dwellers. There are a lot of city dwellers. Even though Waco's a small town, there's a lot of people in Waco that we have access to a lot of things here. Stores, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. And so maybe their concerns are not necessarily our concerns in the grand scheme of things, right? The services they need may not be the services that we need. However, but I think it met their political end to group us together so that they could create another Republican seat or fortify Republican representation utilizing our community. So, but I'm so glad that you decide to run and put your hat in the ring, because we do need someone to represent us. And I'll say this: Texas is not a red state. It's not a blue state. it's a non-voting state.
Amen, brother. That is the truth.
So,
And I've
so,
seen that. I've
so
seen that.
every person who runs for office in Texas should have the ability and believe that they can win. If they can get the people that sits on the couch each and every voting cycle to get up and give them something to vote for. And that's what I think the issue is more than anything, Milan. It's not that people aren't interested in what's going on. It's not that people aren't see that they're affected by the decisions that are made in Washington and in Austin. It's that they feel unattached to the people that represent them, and we largely don't have candidates that appeal to us and speak to us in a way that compel us and motivate us to go and vote. So I think that's the situation more than anything. And so I'm very happy that you're running and that we, and I can tell you that I voted, even though I wasn't sure in this race, but I did give you my vote. And once your campaign reached out to me, I it's almost like my vote was validated by your campaign reaching out and asking to speak to me. So I want to again thank you and and you have my support. Now, again, as you, I saw that. I mean, I understand that you have and it's natural that you would have some interest in fighting for the rights of veterans and people who find themselves in that circumstance. And I thank you for that. But what are some of the other issues outside of the veterans issues that your platform stands on, and what do you believe? Because we have so much going on. We have immigration. We have so much going on. We're currently at war with Iran. And so what are some other things that your platform can bring to Washington?
Absolutely. This is a great question. So first off, I would like to say I want to kind of dive directly in the war in Iran. This is a huge one for my family. Personally, we did the whole post 9/11 thing. We've had friends who died in war. We've had colleagues who have passed. And the biggest thing is we've had, I want to say it correctly for the podcast, but we've had people, several service members who've unalived themselves because of trauma that happened during the war. So immediately when the war popped off, and I'll add this too, I do have a master's degree in criminal justice, but my concentration's in Homeland Security. So I know what they're doing that should be done correctly, and I know what has been done in Iran that just 100% is not being done correctly, what Congress has done and what they have not done, and what they should have done weeks ago. When they saw this coming. So that is very important to have somebody up there who understands that and who's fighting for that. There's many things they could have done. They could have stopped it in many ways, or at least slowed the process of Trump, just going in there with our buddy Israel to do what they're doing now. It shouldn't have happened, and there could have been ways to stop it. And that's a whole nother conversation, APAC and Israel and all that. What I bring to the table, though, is I think what your audience may want to hear. What do I do in my daily life that applies to them that I'm going to take up there? One thing I would say is my whole campaign motto is bridging the gap. Because we were a military family, but we've always been, we're a blended family. Okay, so my husband's been married before, I've been married before. We both have kids from separate relationships, and we have one child together. So we really blended it. And so we see the everyday to everyday things. How are people affording groceries? Because we hardly can. He's 100% retired. I work for a nonprofit. But I would add to your veteran thing, my nonprofit that I work for, we rehome homeless vets. So I do that all over. I do it between Dallas up to Houston, all the way over to Waco. So I'm in that area looking at the homeless populations, doing the pit counts, making sure that we're able to reach everybody we can. So I've carried that passion for government that I had to the veterans who've been affected. That's important to know as a community. I would like the community to know that. So I have a pulse on what's happening to the least of these, the ones who are sitting there and have no home. That's where my pulse is the everyday things. We don't have that in government. We typically have, if I can be honest, is rich white guys up there telling us what we need, what we don't need, how we should live, how we shouldn't live, when nothing that they do in their daily lives applies to anything that we're doing. We have children at home. They are 17, almost 15, almost 17, almost 15, actually next week. A 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. I've had my youngest son, his elementary school is closed. We just went from being in the military over in Europe to go to school there 1 year. We're adjusting as a family. They close the school the next year. Readjustment, whole nother thing. Not just my kid though. I mean, it was a lot of children who had to move to different schools in different areas, different bus routes, all of these things because funding was not there for the schools. That was like one of the first things we saw. Then we start doing like let's volunteer meals on wheels. Let's do that. I start running a route with somebody. The second time I went on the route with him, somebody who had been okay was gone the next week, and his neighbor said he couldn't get a ride for his appointments. He couldn't get a ride to get the medication he needed. Gone. That's a death in my community because they don't have the funding they need to run these programs. Like what am I? Any person with a heart. I'm a mom. Like in my heart, like I'm a mom. I have a mom heart. To not be able to do something with my experience in education. And when I'm talking about experience, I have been a sworn in federal employee, never been a green suiter. I never put a suit on. I have deployed, however. I've worked in the Army overseas. Most recently, I deployed with the Air Force in 2023. And I'm very open and honest about this. I was there 3 months and I left because of sexual assault that nothing was dealt with for. Big proponent of opening the files. It happened to me. Nobody did crap about it. I don't want to cuss on your podcast, but nobody did anything.
You're welcome to use whatever language you feel is appropriate, man.
Yes. But I'm just saying, like these experiences that my family has been through, and what we thought we were fighting for, and then to come back, and we're like, what? No, this is not anything. We've been in the military for 22 years to come home to, and now we have the knowledge. I have the education, the knowledge, the background to fix it. My most recent job outside of deploying with the Air Force, I worked for a year in California. I was an executive assistant for a commander. That is a big deal as a black woman. It's typically filled by a, and I'm not just trying to talk about being a black woman, but I'm just saying that the ceilings that I've had to break here. This role is typically filled by a white officer. I was a black civilian woman. So it was completely different. To be able to have the ability to speak to them because you're not just helping them do paperwork. I was not a secretary. I'm like, sir, well, if you make this decision, then we have to look 2, 3, 4. And then having my knowledge, taking as a subject matter expert to be able to help him. That's what it was. It was not just, I'm here to do paperwork, It was a big deal. And I was so proud of that. And so I've taken everything I've learned from the government, what I know, how to speak in that manner, and I'm bringing it down here. When we first came here, we didn't have medical insurance yet. My kids were on Medicaid. My husband was in the military 22 years. My kids are on Medicaid. So it's things like that. I also mentioned being a blended family. Before I married my husband, there was a time where I was a single mom with 3 kids. And it's not something I'm proud of, but there's been a time where I had to steal diapers and formula because I didn't have the resources I need or understood the resources that were available to me to help me. I didn't know it was there, and I had to feed my kids and put diapers on their butts. So it's things like that that give me the voice that I can take up there. And it's also so important to hear the voices of the community. My big thing is starting with small groups of veterans. You have this coalition and Leander, Round Rock, Copper's Cove, wherever, Killeen. Okay, by the way, Fort Hood has my heart. I know it's the Hood. Well, Cavazos right now, right? It's Fort Cavazos now. But yes, like the Hood is my hood, okay? I spent time there as an Army wife, and I have friends who are still over there, so it does matter. I've seen the lives there, and I know how many people retire from there or get out of the military and live there. And that is the voice too. I have been that. I have a spouse who's been that. I have children who've been these children, and I understand what they need from different points in my life, not only serving as an executive assistant for commander, but being on Medicaid 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's these things that I feel like give me the voice I could bring to our communities that we're not really seeing from other candidates. That's what I would say.
Yeah, well, it seems like you have a vast experience in a lot of different situations where you are able to relate to the people in many ways. And I think, in leading into this next question, I wanted to kind of ask you, how do you connect with people, which it seems like it's going to be very easy for you to do, but what are you going to do to get them motivated to go to the polls and vote? Like, in other words, the people in our community, we feel disconnected from Washington. And how do you get the people in our communities back involved to the point to where they feel connected and they're willing to engage in the political process?
I think it's presence. And this is a big deal. I've not been in your specific neighborhood, but when somebody comes up to me and they seem different, they feel like they can be effective for me, their presence, their hearing, their voice, looking in the eye, I feel like that's so important. When I meet constituents, it's very important for me to look in the eye, look in their eyes and shake their hand. I want them to see, hey, I am here with you. If I don't know something, I'll tell you. I will find the answer. Am I a perfect politician? No, I'm not. But the big thing is having that presence there. What I mean by perfect politician is because they have this whole thing, shake the hands and hold the babies. If somebody stops me and they're like, this is my problem, I have a child who's going through this, what should we do? I'm going to sit there. I'm not going to rush through. I think it's so important to have presence there and to be available. One thing I've always said is when I win, I don't like to say if I win, but when I win, my goal is if I'm not in Washington, every county, every quarter. That is my goal. Every county, every quarter. Because if you're not in Washington, why are you sitting at home? Why are we paying you? It's a job. I have worked hard all my life, and that means showing up. So showing up for the constituents. And if I can't be there, a direct type of group or caucus where the people feel heard, where they know, hey, this is we're talking education here. There's somebody in my district that I know is talking directly to Milah that can tell me what's going on in those schools. The veterans aren't getting the care they need through the VA. I feel like presence is so important. If you feel like you can talk to somebody, if they're available to you whenever you need to reach them, that's important. If they feel like they're not being listened to, or if there's nothing in common with them, why are they voting for you? And I'll also say this. I was one of those, I'm a millennial. Like, I know there's several people like me who are millennials, and we didn't we're a strange generation in the sense that either we were a non-political family or a lot of us were super conservative Christian type families. There wasn't like really a lot of in between where a lot of us were in the pipeline of politics. Like we kind of grew up during 9/11, like some people joined and everything, but we were living our life, and then Trump happened. That's kind of what I feel like happened, And so I understand that too. I understand maybe you weren't interested in politics and now you don't know where to go. Let me sit and talk with you because politics is not my favorite thing either. Like it hurts. It hurts sometimes to watch the TV. None of us, like to turn on the news every day and we're just like, oh God, like why? We all have to take a break. But to have somebody who can speak to you and be like, it's gonna be okay. There's people here who are listening. I feel like presence is so important. That's what I would say. Speaking to the people is going to get them out there to vote. And I have, where I've been welcomed and where I've been available, I've been there to try to show up and talk to them. And it's helped. I've had people who have not voted in years, or people who are voting on a different side, who are now saying like, hey, I hear you. I hear you. We have something in common with me. Let's do this. We can do this together. I think that's the most important thing, presence.
Has there, I have some close friends that are candidates, and they've had some interesting experiences as a candidate. And I was just wondering, while on the campaign trail, is there anything that has surprised you or impacted you in a way that's kind of confirmed, yeah, I'm doing the right thing by running.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, boy. Now, I don't know if you know the meeting I just had before this.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
You do? Okay. That's literally what we were talking about. There are three, I have two other opponents. Um, I won't say their names. One I'm really close. Y'all can look up. District 17. Y'all can look it up. Just put her names in. But I have one I'm very close to. Great guy. And then one who almost in a sense has been misogynistic and racist, even though we're running on the same platform. That has been the most surprising thing. Not anything that's come from constituents, but that sometimes you're going to have people who are claiming to be one thing on one side, but then your personal interactions and then the interactions other people are pointing out, like, that was kind of racist or misogynistic. You're like, I'm just trying to do the political thing, but then having to call it out. That's been the most surprising thing for me. I know I'm in Texas, but at the same time, I've worked hard to be where I am. So to be treated in a different way has been very surprising to me. I expect it'll continue because I'm a black woman, but I don't mind it from the other side, but when it's coming from your own people, that's been quite surprising to me. I would say nothing from constituents. They've been amazing. It's been my own party, to be completely honest. And I'm proud. I will not proud to speak on it. It's actually shameful, but I will speak on it. I'm not going to hide it. So that's something
Well,
for sure.
I'll tell you, my experience here in Texas as a Democrat, I've lived here most of my life. Probably, I'm 56. At least 48 of those 56 years, I've lived here in Texas. And what I would say is, when you talk about Democrats here in Texas, some of them have a lot of Republican ways or Republican values, I'd say. And and they're able to exist in those spaces because of what we spoke about before, is that there hasn't been serious engagement on the Democratic side. So these people are able to hold these offices, whether it be what do they call them? The party chairs. You know, the party chairs are able to hold those offices, represent people, and represent the party. When really, in my opinion, they're just they're wolves in sheep's clothing. And so I think that's something, as our party grows and expands here in Texas, that's something that we'll just have to weed out as 100%. We get more active. I wouldn't let that deter me, not one bit. And so continue on the work that you're doing, even though it's difficult, and hopefully along the way there'll be some people that join you in the fight. And I think that's the most important aspect of what's going on right now. And again, I talked to a friend of mine who's running for county commissioner in Precinct 2 here in McLennan County. And what we have to understand about these campaigns, and I think sometimes as Democrats, we've lost our way. These campaigns aren't won on social media. They're not won through Instagram. They're not won through text messages. They're not won through emails. It's block by block, door to door. That's how these campaigns are run. And if there's one thing I would say to you, is find you someone here locally in Waco that's going to lead the Milan Flores campaign, because you'll need that after you win this primary. You're going to need that those people on the ground making sure that everybody in this community knows who Milan Flores is and knows what she represents. And of course, you're gonna come and visit us. But
I'll be there. So my plan is, when I win the primaries, we've already been looking. I've been talking to local people. I will be residented there. Like my plan. We're a military family. My kids we can go back. We've done this. we've done this to serve our country. My plan is after the primaries, I already have a couple things lined up. I'm moving I will be in the area. So I will be there with my voice loud. So people will know my face and they'll know my voice. I want to be there to represent myself too. Not only people working with me, to get out my name, but to be a presence there and to make myself known there. I'm
So
not
you'll
going to
have
do
a
it from a
campaign
distance.
office here locally at some point?
Yes, 100%.
That's great to hear. Again, that's something that we need in our community, even if you're in the Lufkin area. Lufkin is a pretty hefty drive for most of us, and
It's pretty.
we don't, no. And what I'm saying is, it's a nice place, but we don't share media markets. There's just not a lot. There's no cohesion in District 17 as far as media markets and again, Milah, it's not by surprise that's done that way. It's meant to be difficult for a Democrat to win. But again, there's opportunity here in Texas considering the landscape, and I think you have just as good a chance as any to come out and win. I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
For you before I let you go. I know you got, all right. So I got one here. It says, what are some of the issues that you believe is being overlooked in District 17? Like specifically in the counties and areas what is being overlooked here, and how can you impact what's being overlooked?
The one I mentioned, like the Meals on Wheels, definitely rural healthcare. That's bugging me a lot. I think healthcare is a human right, and we're having failure there. Another thing is the schools. I mentioned, so these are things that have impacted me directly that I know other Texans are dealing with. So of course, when it impacts you, you're going to see it first, but then talking to other people. Let's talk about some other things here. The AI data centers. I know a lot of Texans are very worried about that, and we're being lied to by the data centers who are trying to come in about water usage. They don't even tell you the exact numbers. I went the other day with somebody in Angelina County here in Texas because they're about to put one up here. I know it's happening in Waco too, so this is all across the board from east to central Texas. These data centers, people are having to look at the types of generators they're using to see how much water they use to be able to tell the data centers you're lying about how much water you're taking from Texans. What's this doing for the farms? They're trying to buy up our farmland, generational farms. That are already suffering because of the issues with Trump and him offsetting things. Or we can go on and on about what Trump's done, but focusing locally. The biggest thing I'm hearing from my community directly is the schools, the healthcare, the data centers. The other thing, and it may be because of the communities I am, is just human rights. Now, I'm a woman, I have daughters. My daughter's here in Texas. Roe v. Wade was overturned after we retired here. My daughters now have less rights than I did at their age. And I mentally wrapping my head around that is appalling. So we're talking about human rights here. The fairness of people. I have friends in the LGBT community who are packing up and moving because they don't feel secure here. They don't feel safe here. They're living here. It's appalling to me. So it all comes down really. I would say my biggest things right now is I am worried when I get up there. Healthcare for all, education, the data centers, human rights. And then the biggest thing for me is the veteran. I'm a huge veteran advocate. It's been my life's blood. I work it now, and I see the gaps in the system with that as well. I would say those are my top five. But the other thing is I'm trying to very well inform myself on legislation, what legislation I could even pass for that when I get up there. So
now, one of the issues that for someone who has recently become a Texan that you may not be, I'm just in tune to as well as somebody who's lived here my entire life, is we have a huge and diverse community and we have lived side by side with lots of immigrants here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, those immigrants have made our lives better here in Texas. Do you have any plans or have a platform for addressing the immigration issue that's before us, considering what ICE is doing to not only our neighbors, but also citizens as well?
Yes, and I should have mentioned that in I should have mentioned that in my top five. But ICE is a huge deal. So we have a corner store down the road. Our owner was just kidnapped by ICE. Happened. He went to Houston for his appointment, and they kidnapped him. I'm calling it kidnapping because that is what it was. And I will add this too. Why it is a huge fear of mine. We are a blended family. My last name is Flores. I'm half black, half white. My husband is half Hispanic, half white. But you never know how the mixed babies are going to turn out. So I have two who appear as white, and I have two who appear as Hispanic. They all came from my womb. I never know if my son, who's 17 years old, who looks Hispanic, could be kidnapped while walking next to his blonde-haired, blue-eyed sister. You never know. Both came from my womb. So it is something that is a constant fear. It's something my kids talk about. When we talk about ICE, there's many things that can be done. ICE needs to be abolished. It's less than 20 years old. I mean, we could abolish it. Things need to be focused directly on actual criminals, and that can be done by a small group of people that we already have. Working for us. So there could be many things that can be done. ICE needs to be abolished. There's no reason we need it right now. It's not actually helping anything. It's causing more issues for American people. It's causing more fear, and it's causing more division. It could be handled in a completely different way. People can claim asylum at the border. The border should not be a war zone. CPB needs to be completely need to be retrained in many of the ways they're doing things. We need to follow what was originally input. People can claim asylum at the border or when they're in the United States, and we need to honor those and listen to them. We need to follow the Constitution, due process. There's many things that we need to do. And I feel like a lot of times Congress, this is one thing I'll say, is Congress, and I don't care if it's right or left, there's a lot of fear about going against anything Donald Trump is trying to do at this point. They're afraid there's going to be retaliation. So we have a lot of people who are afraid to do those things to stand up and to actually fight these. When I get up there, my goal will be to abolish ICE, period. It's just a criminal organization in my book who are kidnapping people. And if you look at the Department of Homeland Security, I mean, there was no reason for it even to be implemented the way it has been. I would abolish ICE. Any of the felons and the criminals, the murderers, the rapists, that could be done with a small task force. It just needs to be over. And I know there are congressmen and women who are working on that. It would be my goal to work directly with them to get it done. It is an issue, though.
For sure. And the last thing I'll ask you is something that's near and dear to my heart, being that I am a government employee. If you know, by executive order, President Trump canceled our union contract that we had in place for as long as I've been an employee, and probably, going back 40, 50 years. Do you have any, plans to address that as once you take office?
100%. Let me give you just a quick backstory with this. I was a government employee for many years. I resigned the day after Donald Trump got elected. That is how afraid I was about losing my benefits or not being a loyalist and losing my job as a sworn-in federal employee. I resigned. So I understand. Let me explain something else. Every federal employee lost their job from my squadron. The squadron is no longer anymore. 21st Space Operations Squadron, the Space Force gone. Doge came in, said they weren't needed. I knew the missions that this squadron did, and I knew how critical they were. It went across four countries. We had bases in four different countries. So there was no reason it should have been abolished whatsoever. I don't know what they did with those missions. I don't know how they put them other places, but if something fails, it's probably because they're overloaded. You know what I mean? So with that my dad was also a union employee, I understand how important it is to have that security. And for it to be canceled is absolutely appalling, and I am so sorry. It never should have happened. One thing I want to do when I get up there is not only reestablish those unions that have been canceled by Trump, not just for federal employees, but I mean, we're kind of looking across several different places where he's been able to, across the United States, he has canceled it, even though he's for the American worker. Absolutely fucking not. He's not. Sorry, but he's not. He is 100% not. He doesn't care about anybody but those billionaires. Not only to reestablish those, but if people have lost money or had to quit or fired because the union was not there to support them, back pay. It's not fair. It was not expected, and it needs to be fixed. The union workers are the backbone of this country. And we need y'all. And the reason that people are in a union is to be protected. People don't join a union to quit the next day. It's not like they're short-term workers. These are people who put their life and soul into these jobs, you know? And so it's so important for those to be reestablished. So again, looking at legislation to take back everything he's taken from us. And that includes the union workers. And me personally, I do understand that. I do have the AFL-CIO endorsement. I worked hard for that. I appreciate it. I'm here for it. And I'm here to work for the American worker because I am one too. So I am one too. I understand. I'm just the neighbor girl. I would say it like that. I am the neighbor woman who is just like pissed and yelling at the government constantly. That's me.
Well, hey, you've done a great job representing yourself tonight. I know we're headed down the home stretch of this primary, and really the election season is just getting started. But this is the business at hand. This Texas primary, everything will be decided tomorrow, and I want to wish you good luck. But
Thank you.
One last time, why should people who tune into this show go out and vote for Milah Flores?
Again, Milah Flores, District 17. I am a wife, a mom, a nonprofit worker, a lover, an empath, and I am here for you. I am living your everyday experience. I'm also a well-educated woman who understands what's going on up there in Washington. I speak that language. I also speak the language of not being able to afford groceries. I also speak the language of being a single mom having to steal diapers. I also speak the language of being a union worker and having to quit because it just wasn't working anymore. I also speak the language of having my friends kidnapped from ICE. And I also speak the language of my son's school closing. I also speak the language of veterans down the road dying because they couldn't get medical care. I live that. That is my everyday life. I'm here to speak for you. I'm here because I have the passion, the youth, and the tenacity. I'm here for you. I'm ready to fight. Nobody's going to stop me. Vote for Milah Flores. I got this. If you have not voted tomorrow, go do it. Even if you don't vote for me, go do it. Do your civil service. Amen.
All right, Milah. I want to thank you for coming on. You've done a great job representing yourself. I do look, after you win the primary, I look forward to us linking up again and having a more in-depth conversation as well about what's going to happen for the Milah Flores campaign moving forward into the general election. Thank you again, Milah, and I appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all.
All
right.
All right. That was Milah Flores for U.S. Congress District 17. She'll be on your ballot if you are in McLennan County tomorrow. Make sure, if you're so inclined, to bubble her in now that we don't have electronic voting anymore. Used to be a lot simpler here, and looked like we took a step back in time to go back and shading in bubbles. Remind me of all those tests I didn't pass back in the day. Anyway, but hey guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and getting this information about this candidate who is running for U.S. Congress. I want to remind everybody that the last day to vote in the primary is tomorrow. So go out and vote. And if you're so inclined, you know who I got in District 2. In Precinct 2, County Commissioner, I need you to take Travis Gibson. And in Precinct 2, Constable, I need you to vote for Reggie Jackson. Much love, everybody, and I'm out.